Well, hello, all my fellow leader of the Bandonians. Thank you for being back here on my father's musical journey, my dad Olaf Sveen, on these audio chapters we're calling The Leader of the Band. And we're going to do, or I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping, if you don't mind. I glossed over a couple of songs early on, and I decided I need to play them. They're important. The first one you heard was the Western Wedding Waltz, which was recorded in 1956 with my father, who wrote the song, composed it, and he recorded it with Ole and his Playmates. And that again is Bill Webb and Elmer Letke, Joe Fieber, and Raymond Fleck with my dad Olaf Sveen. And again, I mean, I was lucky. I talked to the children of a lot of these musicians that have crossed over. I talked to Bill Webb's son, I've spoken to Eddie Mailer's children, and I've also talked to the son of Bill Webb, and I mentioned this earlier too, I think in the first chapter. You know, he was with the Regina Rifles when they stormed the beach at Normandy, and that is a big deal. He came back to Canada and he was farming, and his son told me that his dad wore his Ole and his Playmates Western dress shirt farming until he wore it to rags. He had that much fun and he enjoyed his time with Ole and his Playmates. The next song is the Friendly City Polka, recorded in 1958. It's on the other side of the Kenosee Waltz 45, and we have the original sheet music for a lot of these songs. We're lucky we found them here in the house that we bought, the family home, and we had people from around the world send us sheet music. And this is a great song. My dad is just his musicianship on the Friendly City Polka is incredible. And this album, this 45, the Kenosee Waltz and the Friendly City Polka, that is with Olaf Sveen and his orchestra, and that's Ray Fleck, Joe Fieber, Claire Young, and Olaf Sveen, my dad. And man, my dad is just incredible on this song. He just fills the recording. But it doesn't stop the flow of the music. And you flip it over, and the other side is Eddie Mailer. And again, when I was 5, my mom and a whole bunch of relatives went to Kenosee Lake in one of those one of those James Bond amphibious cars. There was about 6 of us crammed into that thing, and the water was right at the top level. You know, every once in a while it would splash in, and if a bunch came in, we would have went down in the drink. That's how many people were stuffed into that little car. And I just wanted to mention those songs, those 45, that 45 and that 78, here on the 3rd chapter of The Leader of the Band. And I got a whole bunch of stories to share with you. I am going to play my dad's 3rd album on the 3rd chapter, and we'll look at that right now. And you are listening to me, Paul Olaf Sveen, the son of Olaf Sveen, here on chapter 3 of my dad, Olaf Sveen's musical journey here on Leader of the Band. And we are back from that gorgeous, gorgeous waltz. It's called Evening on the Lake, and right now I'm up in the stratosphere. It's such a relaxing, beautifully, spectacular played waltz. My dad on the accordion, and of course we have Don LeBlanc in the background playing the acoustic guitar. This is it's a fabulous song. It's a ton of great songs on my dad's 3rd album, and a couple of things happening here. A bit of a hubbub. The cover of the album, when I did a deep dive on the internet, whatever you kids are calling that place now, they're telling me that the album photo was taken at Windermere Lake, Alberta. And the cross is where a couple met their demise. So it's a double homicide on the cover of a polka Shottice album, and the double homicide happened in Halloween 1915 when an ex-boyfriend was responsible. And my father wasn't much older than the couple that went to the pearly gate. And I started to wonder, why would my dad put a double homicide on the cover of a polka Shottice album? And it's because I was wrong, kids. And you know, I know what's happening. I know. When I say that it's the cover of my dad's album is a crime scene. There are those of you thinking, no. These audio chapters are the crime scene, Paul. And I get that, and I thought that because I'm witty, and it's called Talent, my friends. So this album cover was actually taken in British Columbia in a small town, and it's not a crime scene. So just forget what I said. And this is 1961, we were still on the farm in Steelman, Saskatchewan, and I'm not sure if you knew this, but back in the day, the chicken coop was a nursery. That's where all the kids stayed, behind the gates of a chicken coop, so they couldn't get out and get into shenanigans. And I remember my sisters and brothers chasing me around in the chicken coop, and I'm not sure if they tripped me. I would say yes, they did. I was a little punk, and they tripped me, and I was sliding into the chicken jam, and I was yelling stuff like, "Hey, it's in my mouth!" And they all laughed, and oh, good for them. But also, this is my dad's third album. There's a lot of people that believe that this is my dad's first album, and we like to call those people wrong, because my dad's first album was the one on the first chapter of the leader of the band. Olaf Sveen and his accordion orchestra plays polka, schottisches, and old-time Canadian favorites, and that is a real doozy to find. It's almost impossible to find. So a lot of people just said, okay, well, whatever then. We'll just make his third album his first album because we can't find the first album. I understand that reasoning. But this is my dad's third album, and we are going to hear another song off this great album, and you can see the evolution of the recordings. Again, I want to state, going from Oldies Waltz and his first recording, right? It's 78, recorded on a 4-track mixer in Regina, and you can tell by the recording here, it's a much better recording, a better studio. So my dad's music, it's more clearer, and his recordings and the studios keep getting better and better and better. And let's hear another masterpiece of my father's here on the musical journey of Olaf Sveen here on The Leader of the Band. And hello, it's me again, Paul Olaf Sveen, and you just heard the toe-tapping polka, the Marianne polka, off my dad's third album. And we have a whole bunch of stuff to get through here, and I want to share with you here on this third chapter of The Leader of the Band. And I got to say that I do say my dad a lot. My dad. my dad. I say it a lot, and I'm going to tell you, it is a show of pride, because I am so proud of my dad. And you know, I'm not sure if we were all those angry 14-year-old kids. I certainly was. I didn't understand my dad back then, too immature, and had the IQ of a soap dish. But as I go through, went through writing the manuscript, The Leader of the Band, and as I went through all my dad's songs and everything, and started building these audio chapters, like I mentioned earlier, I had rediscovered my father. I've come to know who my dad is, and it's amazing to be able to do that all these years later, after my father has passed. Again, he passed in 2007, and I say my dad. I think that's better than saying, Big Rig. Calling my dad Big Rig or Montana or Odin like Viking Lord. My dad is better for these chapters. And, my dad he traveled for a living, right? To pay the mortgage. Can you imagine that? My dad paid all the bills by playing polkas. That took a lot of courage. And he was always gone. He was in WW, World War II. And he was friends with amazing accordion players like Dick Contino, Tolov Tolleson, Frankie Yankovic, the World War II hero, wounded in the Battle of the Bulge, and he went on to become a polka great. And my dad, he went right from Norway. He was in business school. Yeah, he became he worked at being a bank teller and working in economics, and he learned to speak English fluently. And he came to Canada, and he worked hard at recreating all these albums. And it's amazing. We're talking about, it's 1961, and my dad has recorded his third album, and he started in 1954 with the first 78, and there was 2 78s and several 45s and 3 albums in a short period of time. How hard he worked to compose these songs and to create what he created through all of this. I was a lost kid. And I'm looking back. My dad's work that he did to create these albums and to write all the articles he wrote, and to be a teacher and an author. It inspired me. But when I started out, I tried to follow my dad's footsteps, and I went to join the Army. My dad was in the Army, so I remember the day. I went to the recruiting office, and I said, I want to be in the Canadian Army, and I want to be in the Canadian Army now. And they said, okay, just sign here, and you'll be on an airplane in a couple hours, and you'll go out east, and you'll go to boot camp. And I said, okay, I'm just going to walk out that door there and have a cigarette. And I walked out the door, and I ran for my life, and get this, I became a sewer worker. Yay! So it took me a long while to follow my dad's footsteps. And I wanted to mention also, before we go any further, of the 45s, he also recorded that I glossed over, My Own Waltz and Boil That Cabbage Down, that my dad recorded in the late 50s, and the Jolly Roger Polka and the Finnish Waltz, which he recorded back in the late 50s. And before we go any further, I message to you that the lesson that when I look back, the lesson that I got from my father through this third recording, as I sit here all these years later, is the more we ask of ourselves, the more we'll get from ourselves, and the further we'll finish from who we once were. And my dad started out as a kid with an accordion in Norway, and then ended up being an international traveling musician because of his heart and his soul and his spirit. And to show you how unstoppable my dad is, because he lives on through his music, we're going to play a song off my dad's fourth album, and we'll talk to you again right away after this song here on my dad Olaf Sveen's musical journey on Leader of the Band. And hello again. I'm speechless. That accordion playing is just incredible. That's the accordion Chautisse, and that's my dad playing with Don LeBlanc on my dad's fourth album, Square Dance Western Style, and that was recorded in 1962, and that's just before we left from Steelman, Saskatchewan, down the Yellowhead Highway 16 to Edmonton, so my dad can record in better recording studios, and he had more opportunity because at that time Edmonton was booming. And I had mentioned that we call this series The Leader of the Band because that's a song that was playing, the AM Gold song by Dan Fogelberg that was playing in my dad's cassette player, my mom's cassette player, when I went to visit my dad one of the last times. I pressed play and it was queued up perfectly. It was synchronous. And it was a coincidence from some higher power or something. And those words still stick with me. The leader of the band is tired, and his eyes are growing old. But his blood runs through my instrument, and his song is in my soul. My life has been a poor attempt to imitate the man. I'm just a living legacy of the leader of the band. And my dad lives through me, through the discoveries I'm making in this audio chapter series, The Leader of the Band. I've come to know my father more, and our relationship is stronger, and what an incredible opportunity to do that, to have this relationship through my dad's music and learning more about him, how incredible of a musician he was and how great of a father he is, because he lives on through me. And we're going to leave you in chapter 3 with one more song from Square Dance Western Style, my dad's fourth album. and it's written for his sister, Christina. And I thank you for listening to these audio series. If you get a chance, subscribe to this channel and leave a comment. Tell me what you like, and we can see if I can find the 45 or 78 or album, and I'll play it for you. My dad's music, I hope. And we'll be talking to you soon. And my name is Paul Olaf Sveen. I'm the son of Olaf Sveen, the leader of the band, here on my father Olaf Sveen's musical journey on this series that we're calling The Leader of the Band. And here's a song from his fourth album, Christina. And we will talk to you right away at the beginning of chapter 4 here on the musical journey of my father Olaf Sveen. I am Paul Olaf Sveen, and you're listening to The Leader of the Band.